Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're looking at PFA Connect.
Okay.
It's a really interesting initiative that's working to support professionals who are working with Ukrainian children who've been impacted by the humanitarian crisis. So we're going to be drawing on some insights from their website and a blog post that they have featuring a bunch of different firsthand experiences. And we'll be sure to link those in the show notes if you're interested in checking them out yourself. This deep dive is going to be really insightful for anybody who's curious about humanitarian aid, child psychology, or even just innovative support systems and how they're evolving in times of crisis.
Yeah, one of the things that's really interesting about PFA Connect is this focus on peer-to-peer learning. It's kind of moving away from solely relying on traditional top-down training methods and really empowering the professionals to be the source of knowledge and support for each other, drawing on their shared experiences.
Okay, so let's break down exactly what PFA Connect is.
So PFA Connect is essentially a platform that was launched by the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, you might know them as IFRC, and the Geneva Learning Foundation, or TGLF.
Okay.
And it aims to create this network for professionals who are supporting Ukrainian children. And we're talking about a significant number, over 2,000 professionals.
Wow.
From 27 European countries.
That's a pretty big reach, and it's spanning across Europe, too, not just in Ukraine.
Exactly.
So what does that kind of network look like in action?
Well, it really fosters a sense of community. You can think of it as a space where professionals can openly discuss the challenges they're facing and the solutions that they've discovered and connect with others who really understand what they're going through. And there's a quote in the blog that I think exemplifies this. It's from an educator from Ukraine, Helena Fedorishin. She says, "I felt like I was part of a community of like-minded people who care about children's mental health. I had the opportunity to expand my social contacts with professionals outside of Ukraine."
I love that. It's a really powerful sentiment, and it highlights that even amidst a crisis, there's this potential for human connection and support that can really make a difference.
Absolutely.
So this brings us to the PFA part of PFA Connect, which stands for Psychological First Aid, which I think is not as widely known as something like physical first aid. So can you explain a little bit about what that looks like?
Sure. So it's actually very much like physical first aid.
Yeah.
In that it's providing immediate support. But in this case, it's emotional and practical support tailored to those who have experienced trauma. A lot of these children have been through incredibly distressing events, and PFA aims to create a sense of safety and stability and meet their immediate needs and giving them a space to just be without pressure to talk about their experiences, unless they're ready.
Yeah, it sounds like PFA focuses on creating a sense of security, which is so vital considering all the upheaval that these children have faced.
Exactly.
The blog post mentioned professionals learning new techniques for connecting with children through PFA Connect. So what are some examples of those techniques?
So a lot of professionals actually struggle with this, helping children who might not be able to articulate their trauma or exhibit behavioral changes due to their experiences. So PFA Connect aims to equip them with the tools to address these specific needs. And one of the professionals featured in the blog, Andrea Elena Andras, a Red Cross health professional in Romania, she discussed learning techniques like grounding and breathing exercises, which can be really helpful for building rapport and creating that sense of safety for a child who might be overwhelmed or scared.
So it sounds like it provides practical tools that can be used right away.
Exactly.
Which is helpful considering that these are often busy professionals working under pressure. So what's the format like? Is it a huge time commitment?
It's actually designed to be quite manageable. So they offer these 30-minute online sessions.
Okay.
And they're conducted in both English and Ukrainian. And professionals can connect in small groups or even one-on-one to discuss their challenges and share solutions.
That makes sense. 30 minutes seems pretty doable, even with a busy schedule. I did notice on the website that there are 3 different paths that participants can choose from: PFA Alt Impact Accelerator and peer learning exercise.
Right.
Can you give us a quick rundown of how those differ?
Sure. So the 30-minute sessions you just mentioned fall under that PFA Connect path. And that's really designed for quick knowledge sharing and problem solving. Yeah. Then there's the Impact Accelerator, which is a bit more involved. It runs for 2 to 6 weeks, and it guides participants in developing local projects to support the children with weekly goals, peer support meetings, and expert guidance along the way. And lastly, there's the peer learning exercise, and that's a 2-week program where participants delve deeper into their experiences by crafting and sharing case studies, receiving feedback from seasoned practitioners, and even having the opportunity to earn certification. All three paths offer flexible scheduling to accommodate busy professionals.
So even though these professionals are all spread out across different countries, this shared experience of supporting these children creates common ground.
Yeah. I'm curious about the certification aspect. How does that work in a peer-to-peer setting?
It's based on a quick 5-question feedback questionnaire that focuses on capturing the key takeaways from the sessions. And participants can also choose to add qualitative feedback,
Okay.
which provides even more valuable insight.
So it sounds like there's a strong emphasis on gathering practical knowledge and ensuring that the training is applicable to real-world situations.
Exactly.
Now, the website really emphasizes the power of peer learning, and we've kind of touched on this a bit already. But why is this approach particularly effective, especially in a context like this?
Well, think about it. Who better understands the challenges of working with children affected by this crisis than those who are doing it every single day?
Yeah.
Peer learning acknowledges that sometimes. The most valuable insights come from lived experience, and PFA Connect taps into this collective wisdom of the network, allowing professionals to learn from each other's successes, failures, and adaptations. It's like that saying, it takes a village. But in this case, the village is a network of professionals across Europe dedicated to helping these children.
Exactly.
And the impact is evident. In the stories that they share in the blog, one of the educators from Croatia, Jelena Horvat-Petanchko, she said, "I feel more equipped to make a positive impact in my role. The practical knowledge and real-life examples inspired me to adapt my methods and approach challenges with greater empathy and creativity."
Right.
I mean, that's the kind of impact that really sticks with you. It's one thing to learn about a concept theoretically, but to hear how it's being applied successfully in a real-life situation is what truly empowers people to make a difference.
Absolutely, and that's why PFA connects. Focus on sharing these practical solutions is so valuable. They understand that professionals need more than just theoretical knowledge. They need those tangible strategies that they can implement immediately.
So we've talked a lot about how this initiative is helping professionals, but I'm curious about the specific ways that these new skills and techniques are being used to directly support the children. Do you have any examples of that from the blog post or website?
Yeah, there's a great story about Natalia Sumarieva. She's a mental health professional in Ukraine. And her participation in PFA Connect prompted a really noticeable shift in her approach. She started focusing more on providing support from the very first interaction with the children and prioritizing building trust and connection early on. To establish that safe space that we talked about, she even started incorporating these skills into her teaching for non-psychology students, further extending the reach of these valuable techniques.
It's like a ripple effect. The impact spreads beyond just those directly involved in PFA Connect.
Absolutely.
And while we focused on the impact within Ukraine, this is a Europe-wide initiative.
That's right.
So what began as a way to support Ukrainian professionals quickly grew beyond borders. And what I find really interesting is that it's not simply about sharing knowledge, it's about fostering connections and collaboration across cultures.
Exactly.
The blog features a quote from a Croatian education professional who found it incredibly encouraging to connect with individuals across Europe who share similar goals and experiences. And this really underscores the universality of the challenges they face and the power of working together to find solutions.
And I think Rita Sadki, executive director of the Geneva Learning Foundation, put it perfectly. He said, a social worker in Ukraine might develop an innovative approach that could help a teacher in Croatia facing similar challenges. Our role is to make these connections possible at scale.
I love that. It really captures the potential of PFA Connect to be a catalyst for change, not just for Ukrainian children, but for anyone working with children in crisis situations across Europe and potentially beyond.
It's remarkable how such a straightforward concept can be so effective. Just connecting people who understand each other's realities and giving them a platform to share their experiences and support each other. Sometimes the most powerful solutions are the simplest. You know, one thing that really stands out to me about PFA Connect is how it addresses a gap that often exists in humanitarian aid and crisis response.
What do you mean?
So we often see a heavy focus on the immediate tangible needs, like food shelter and medical care.
Right.
Which all absolutely critical in a crisis.
Of course.
But the psychological and emotional well-being of those affected, especially children, can sometimes get overlooked.
That's true. It's like we're so focused on tending to it the very visible wounds, that we forget about the invisible ones. That can be just as debilitating in the long run.
Exactly, and that's where PFA Connect really shines. It brings the psychological aspect of care to the forefront, equipping professionals with the tools and the support that they need to address these children's emotional needs, not just in the immediate aftermath, but for the long term as well.
So it's really a long-term investment. By focusing on the professionals, PFA Connect creates this ripple effect where they're then better equipped to support the children who can then hopefully go on to heal and rebuild their lives.
Exactly, and it's already paying dividends. The success stories that they share on their website and in that blog post are quite inspiring.
Do you have a favorite? One that really exemplifies PFA Connect's impact?
There are so many, but one that really resonated with me is the story of Alyona Krivoyak, a social worker from Ukraine. She shared, "Thanks to peer learning that is certified, I'm able to provide better quality support and transfer knowledge about it to others."
I love that. She's not just improving her own practice, but she's also become this multiplier of knowledge, empowering others to do the same.
Yeah, exactly. That's what PFA Connect is all about.
And I find it interesting that she mentions the certification aspect specifically. It lends a sense of legitimacy to this type of peer-to-peer learning.
It does. It acknowledges the value of that experiential knowledge that you gain from working on the ground, facing those real-world challenges.
This isn't just a casual exchange of ideas. It's a recognized form of professional development.
It is. And it's like shifting the power dynamic a little bit. Instead of knowledge flowing solely from the top down, it recognizes that those closest to the situation often have the most valuable insights.
Yeah, and PFA Connect provides that platform, the structure and the support to facilitate that knowledge sharing and collaboration.
Exactly.
One thing that really strikes me about PFA Connect is how it embraces the diversity of experiences and perspectives within the network. It doesn't assume this one-size-fits-all approach.
Right, because what works in one context might not be effective in another. So the flexibility of the program with those different learning paths and multiple languages in various formats allows participants to really tailor their experience to their specific needs and situations.
And that flexibility extends to the content, too. Participants are encouraged to bring their own challenges, solutions, even tools and resources to share. It feels like a very collaborative learning environment.
It is, and it acknowledges that everyone has something to contribute, regardless of their background or their level of experience. So even if you're new to working with children in a crisis situation, your perspective is still valued. And you have something to learn from others.
Yeah, it fosters that sense of inclusivity and shared ownership in the learning process, ensuring that the solutions are grounded in the realities of those working directly with the children.
Exactly. It's not just theory. It's about addressing those real-world challenges.
Yeah, it's important to remember that. PFA Connect isn't designed to replace formal training. In psychological first aid, it's about complementing and enhancing those foundational skills.
Yeah, it's like a continuous learning loop. You acquire the basic knowledge through your training. You put it into practice. You encounter challenges. You share those challenges with your peers. You gain new insights and solutions. And then you bring all of that back to your work. The cycle just keeps going.
It's the dynamic process that recognizes that learning is never truly finished, especially in a field as complex as working with children in crisis.
Yeah, and I think what I really appreciate about PFA Connect is that it acknowledges that learning isn't just about acquiring information. It's also about building relationships and finding support, creating that sense of community among these professionals who are doing such critical and often emotionally taxing work.
That support system is essential because these are individuals who are dealing with incredibly challenging situations every single day. So having a space where they can connect with others who understand and share their burdens and offer support is so valuable, both for their professional growth and their own personal well-being.
It's like creating a safety net, not just for the children, but for the professionals themselves.
Exactly. And by investing in their well-being, PFA Connect is ultimately ensuring a more sustainable and effective response to this crisis.
It really highlights that human element. And at the heart of humanitarian aid, we can have all the resources and strategies in the world, but without those compassionate, skilled, and supported individuals on the ground, none of it really matters.
It's a good point. It reminds us that while we often focus on the logistics of aid, that human connection is what truly drives positive change.
And this brings us back to the broader implications of PFA Connect and its potential for adaptability.
You're thinking about that final thought, about how this model could be applied to other areas beyond just this current crisis.
Yeah, we've seen how effective this peer-to-peer learning approach can be in supporting professionals who are working with Ukrainian children. But imagine adapting into other fields, other crises, other challenges that we face globally.
That's a big question, but it's definitely worth exploring because there's so many areas where this kind of collaborative learning could be really beneficial.
Imagine professionals in healthcare, education, social work, even business and technology, having access to platforms like PFA Connect, where they can connect with peers, share experiences, and learn from each other. Think of all the innovations, the solutions, the collective wisdom that could emerge.
It's exciting to think about. What are the key ingredients that make PFA Connect so successful? What are the elements that we can replicate in other contexts?
It's a great question. I think it starts with a clear purpose and a shared understanding of the challenge that's being addressed.
Like in PFA Connect, the focus is on supporting professionals who are working with Ukrainian children affected by this crisis. So everyone involved understands that core mission.
Exactly. And then you need a structure that facilitates meaningful connection and collaboration.
So in this case, it's those 30-minute online sessions, the different paths, the flexible scheduling, the opportunity for certification. It's creating a framework that makes it easy for people to connect and learn from each other. But it goes beyond just logistics.
You also need to foster a culture of trust and respect. Participants need to feel safe sharing their experiences, challenges, even their vulnerabilities, without judgment.
Yeah, those confidentiality agreements, the commitment to child safeguarding, that emphasis on creating a safe and supportive environment for everyone involved.
Those elements are crucial.
But beyond that, it's about fostering that sense of ownership and empowerment among the participants, recognizing that everyone has something valuable to contribute, and that the solutions are often found within the network itself.
And that's what's so compelling about peer-to-peer learning, tapping into the collective wisdom of the network, the diverse perspectives, lived experiences, and those innovative solutions that emerge.
When people come together with a shared purpose,
it's recognizing that we're all in this together. And by supporting each other and learning from each other, we can create a more resilient, a more compassionate, and a more effective response to these challenges that are facing our world.
And that's a message that resonates far beyond borders and cultures and specific fields of expertise. It's a message that can inspire positive change in all aspects of our lives.
I think it's fascinating how PFA Connect really shifts the focus away from those traditional training models and moves more toward this collaborative approach. It's not just about passively receiving information. It's recognizing that the knowledge is already there. It already exists within the network. Exactly. Each professional working with these children brings such a wealth of experience and insights to the table. And PFA Connect really provides that platform for that knowledge to be shared and discussed and refined through those interactions.
So less about that top-down instruction and more about creating a space for that collective learning and problem solving.
Yeah, tapping into that wisdom of the crowd.
And that must lead to more practical and relevant solutions because they're coming from the people who are actually facing these challenges.
Absolutely. And the blog post really highlights this. They have a quote from Olga Sinicina, a social work professional in Ukraine, who says, "I had answers to my questions. I can use my knowledge and practice. I saw that there are many perspectives." It's that sense of empowerment, knowing that you have the tools and the knowledge to make a real difference.
We've talked about the benefits for the individual professionals, but I'm also curious about that broader impact of PFA Connect. So bringing together these professionals from different countries and different backgrounds must also foster the sense of cross-cultural understanding and collaboration.
It does remember that quote from the Croatian education professional in the blog post. They talked about how inspiring it was to connect with people across Europe who share those same goals and experiences, saying that, culture, gender, and age are no barrier to mutual understanding and learning about supporting children. It's that sense of shared humanity. That, I think, makes PFA Connect so powerful.
It's like building bridges of empathy and understanding across borders and cultures, connecting people who might not otherwise have the opportunity to learn from each other.
And think about the ripple effects. These professionals return to their communities with new insights and strategies, and they share what they've learned, creating this multiplier effect. That extends far beyond that initial network.
It's like planting seeds of knowledge and compassion that grow and spread, creating this more supportive and resilient ecosystem for those children who've been affected by this crisis.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it brings us back to our earlier conversation about the broader implications
Yeah.
of this model.
You're talking about that final thought
Yeah.
of how this model could be applied to other challenges facing our world.
If it can work so well in this context, why not adapt it to other things as well?
There's so many pressing issues, I feel like, that could benefit from this. Thinking about the climate crisis, political polarization, economic inequality.
We're facing some really daunting challenges as a global society.
Absolutely.
And they require innovative solutions and collaborative efforts. So what if we apply this peer-to-peer learning approach to addressing those issues? Imagine connecting professionals, activists, community leaders, even everyday citizens who are passionate about making a difference and giving them those spaces to share their experiences, to learn from each other and co-create those solutions.
It's about tapping into that collective intelligence and creativity that exists, not just within our communities, but across the globe.
We don't have to wait for top-down solutions from governments or institutions. We can empower ourselves, connect with each other, and start taking action.
It's really inspiring to think about the potential of this model to create positive change in so many areas.
It all starts with recognizing the power of that human connection and the potential that exists within each of us to make a difference. And sometimes all it takes is that conversation, that shared experience, a willingness to listen and learn from each other.
PFA Connect is a really powerful example of what's possible when we embrace that spirit of collaboration and shared learning. So to our listeners, if you're intrigued by what you've heard today, we really encourage you to check out the PFA Connect website. You can learn more about the program, the individuals involved, and maybe even consider how you might be able to contribute your own expertise or support this initiative.
And as you go about your day, your week, your life, think about where else you can apply this peer-to-peer learning approach. What challenges in your own community or field could benefit from this kind of collaborative problem solving?
Because ultimately, it's about recognizing that we all have something to teach and something to learn.
And by working together, by sharing our experiences and supporting each other, we can create a more compassionate, a more resilient, and a more just world for everyone.
That's a beautiful note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into PFA Connect.
Until next time, keep learning, keep connecting.
And keep making a difference.